Yeah, we can hear you.
Man. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. Yes. I would like to greet you. I would like to greet you. Okay. I'm hoping the people are going to join us during the way. Anyway, the conversation is recorded, so those who join late, they'll be able to even still get it. Even if they don't join now, they listen during the week, they will still find the conversation. So I think we can still continue it even if people have not joined. So, guys, I would like to welcome you. I would like to welcome you to this important conversation, and thank you very much for honoring our invite. Honoring our invite to talk about this important topic of today. Uh, yeah, Mr. Langa Zulu and Mr. Tshega, Mampshika. I think Mr. Mbili knows you guys. Mr. Mbili knows you. These are the guys, Christian. These are the guys who have been very dominant in Northern KZN when it comes to coding and robotics. Yeah, the guys have done so much. They've done so much for the province when it comes to red. They are running a coding and robotics academy. They train, like they teach teens coding. Yeah, they've done so much for the community. They've done so much for the community. They will also just share some of the work that I've done. I've been into their labs. Like, the technology there, the robots that they're building are very impressive. Uh, Tshega was my classmate. We go a very long way with Tshega. Uh, we used to be classmates. We're doing chemistry in the university. Yeah, yeah, man. The story is very long between him and me. And then, guys, Christian Anderson. This is my other friend. Like, I met him in Fenton. I met him in Fenton when he was still with Forge Academy. There, he was still with Forge Academy. Uh, they have a lab there, AR, VR lab. Oh man, the stuff that they developed there, hey man, hey man, it's very amazing, very amazing. Uh, uh, okay, very amazing. I'm sorry about that. Very amazing. So they are also having. He's also running a coding and robotics academy at Kahiso now.
That's
They
great.
moved from Christian. Can you please mute? They moved from Sentin to Kahiso because they are trying to reach more underprivileged communities there. So they are also in active in coding and robotics mostly. So I've always wanted you guys to meet because you do similar work, and Christine is also what they are doing in Johannesburg is very big from the side. They do so much. They are basically a backbone for the technology for Forge Academy. So, hey, he's done so much also. So, I would like to greet you and welcome you all. And Christine, I think Mr. Mbili, you don't know Mr. Mbili. Mr. Mbili is he's a co-founder of Scientific. We co-founded Scientific with him. Like, yeah, he's done so much also. He's also a co-founder of Lila Foods. We do a lot of work at Scientific with. So, starting our talk for today, I don't know whether Mr. Mbili, you want to say something before I let the guest speakers say their introductory remarks about today's talk. Mr. Mbili? Oh, Mr. Mbili, I see. Mr. Mbili, can you please send me a request to co-host? Please send me a request to co-host. I see you're still a listener here. So while Bill is doing that, maybe I will just give my guest just to make some introductory remarks about. So what I'm expecting, just introduction and the organization and what you guys are doing before we get to the talk. So maybe I may start with you, Mr. Zulu Langa.
Um, can
Okay.
I start?
Okay, Zaka, yes. Yes, you can.
My name is Tshega Mampshika. I'm personally originally from Limpopo, Polokwane. But I moved to Northern KZN about 10 years ago. It's been crazy 10 years. Attended my university at University of Zulu, where indeed I was doing BSc in computer science and chemistry. That was indeed some fun times. And then I met up with Langa, or me and Langa met while we were both also at the University of Zululand. We met via an organization called United Nations Association of South Africa, where we ended up finding ourselves both, leading the organization. I think that was in 2014 or 2015. We continued working together from there, noticing our ambitions in business to the point whereby in 2017 we decided to work on an application together. When the hashtag managed fresh was really trending, we saw it fit at the time as an organization which was new at the time called Algorithm Lab. We saw it fit to sort of respond with solutions, well, with a solution that was in 2017. So we built a mobile panic button again, 2017. It was interesting because at the time, a lot of people had never actually heard about, or they have had never met. Most people had never met a person who developed an application or an app. So we developed this application. Everyone is amazed, like, oh wow, this can happen. Where can it happen? It can happen in South Africa. It can happen in Richards Bay. To make the matter even much more interesting, it's just a laptop, and so that's so our organization, being propelled. We're talking radio interviews, TV interviews, and so on and so forth until I think 2019. Yeah, until 2019 when we decided. Right before that, we were like, when we were building the applications, we actually were struggling to acquire skills in South Africa at the time. There was difficulties getting skills of uh, programmers or developers, especially when you were in Richards Bay, where young people would graduate and would leave as soon as they are done, and you are wondering what do we do. So we then, that is in 20 no 2018, we then partner with University of Zululand, and we are like, we are dedicated to training young people to ensuring that they get this skill as many as possible. That is the skill of development. I was mentoring for like 3 years. I was mentoring computer science students, specifically in software engineering through that partnership at the University of Zululand. When you start doing that, you get to notice very quickly that young people, they grow in stages. When you find young people at the age of 18, 19, 20, 22, 25, their worries about development are quite different from what we were looking at the time. They do not have enough time, or they do not have much time to sort of sit and work on their skills, or work on improving their skills without cash flow. And therefore, you, as a small organization that is trying to build that or such a platform, you quickly learn that you know trying to sort of get young people at that age to invest in their skills, especially in South Africa, where we know that poverty is in its deepest, line, where we know that young people, as soon as they finish graduating, they are forced to look for jobs and so on and so forth. Well, right now, reality is sort of teaching us something new. But at the time, that was not a conversation you could have. We were trying to have it. That was the conversation of working on your skills, even in the absence of jobs, of a job, was not a conversation you could have in 2018, 2019. It was received bitterly. So we recognize that, and we are like, we probably need to, if we are going to build super developers, if we are going to build super solutionists, we probably need to focus, or we need to invest in young people. And that was around the time we found ourselves in at Richards Bay Techno Hub, where we then were like, we are gonna launch a robotics and coding a robotics and coding academy, and we are going to take kids as young as 8 years old, and we're gonna teach them how to code. We're gonna teach them how to build robots. We then, and we then were like, for the next 3 years, we want to test a new type of curriculum, which we are going to be teaching these young people. The curriculum that we are teaching should introduce young children to not just coding, to not just block coding or block robotics. We want them to build actual solutions. We want them to build something from a wood, taking a wood and putting it together into something that is suddenly movable, taking a box and putting it together into something that is suddenly movable, or even 3D printing a plastic and putting electronics in there and making it something that is movable. That is what we were looking at, to say, can we can we train young people as the age of 8 to develop solutions to problems they see in their communities using IoT, using robotics, using sensors, using things that we call now embedded systems. So we then our then curriculum moved to what we call Arduino based, and we found young people, very young, 8 years old, by very young people. We saw them taking this sensors that a lot of people hadn't have not seen, or even now the sensors that our students work with, a lot of people have not had interaction with. We saw these young people taking them, embracing them, and starting to build solutions that are, going beyond where we think possible. Just to tell you about our young people, the youngest at the time, who was 8 years old, it was Juliana Wright. During COVID, she actually built a smart social distancing glasses, which are actually operational. And she wanted to actually build something that would help with social distancing. She was about 8, 9 at the time. We have young children like Adelaide Hendrikse, who just received an award by Charlotte Matlage Institute in Sandton, indeed, where she was presented with an award by the mayor, not the premier of KwaZulu Natal. And what she is building is, she is building a solution for, which is called smart medical carrier bag for body organs. That is when you're transporting body organs. We saw kids like Alex Hendricks, who I think joined the academy when he was 12. And what the young guy is doing is amazing. The young guy is building projects now in machine learning. As young as 14 years old, he's building projects in machine learning. He is probably, we are sure, going to be one of those top young chaps in that industry. And his solution, which is now developed or is now being developed to work on machine learning, is trying to fix the problem in recycling industry, where you are unable to, or where there is no quick method of separating plastics and separating material for recycling. So that is then what we were able to build, or that is where we decided to get our academy to be, or where we decided to get it to solve problems. Our students compete against, they are as young as, the youngest is like 14, I mean the oldest is 14 years old. They compete against university students. They compete against industry experts every all the time. They are currently busy competing. In fact, in a smart weather system for farmers, the competition which is run by AI for Good. So that is our academy. That is what we focus on, and that is what we are trying to achieve. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Saha. That was very interesting. I remember myself, I've been there. Yeah, a lot of stuff that you guys done, even with that Imba Water app, we'll still talk about. That was very amazing. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you guys have done there. So, I believe you've spoken for both of you with Langa. Let me start with Kirstin now. Also, Kirstin, just the same thing, your journey with your academy. Yeah, just take us through to what you've been before we move.
Thank you so much, Thulani, for this opportunity. Um, if I can just speak on where we are at currently, so I am still with Forge Academy. However, as you noted earlier, that we have moved on to the community, trying to get into our communities at Kagiso and trying to get some outreach going there. The things that we are doing is very similar. I'm amazed by the sort of people that I'm able to speak with tonight. With Tshega and Langa, the things that they are doing is very similar to what we also are trying to achieve, particularly in our underprivileged areas. With me, I also come from a sort of, can I say, I come from just playing in Cape Town, where our schooling systems weren't always the best. And that's always sat with me when I came through to Johannesburg. I've always felt that I need to reach back to the kids that really, really need these sort of additional programs to enhance their learning. Because we're in a country right now where 8 out of 10 of our students, 80% of our students in grade 4, for example, aren't able to read with true meaning. They don't necessarily understand with meaning what they actually are reading. Or 60% of our learners don't have mathematical knowledge or aren't able to demonstrate scientific knowledge. And this is a very big problem. We have fallouts at grade 8. We have a 50% fallout rate amongst our students, which is ridiculous. So, I mean, there's over 1 million kids that fall out every year at grade 8. And what sort of future do they have for themselves? Those are the sort of questions that I keep asking myself, which is why I'm driven to participate in these spaces, to give kids some leverage, because we have no idea the sort of jobs that they're going to fall into. Even in the things that I'm teaching kids right now, I know for a fact that every day there's new technologies coming about, there's new advances, and the jobs that they have tomorrow is honestly beyond my imagination. The things that I did in matric, I don't know if it would have prepared me for what I'm doing right now. What I've done at university level, in fact, I'm not doing anything close to that. So that is why I do what I do, and why I've chosen to participate more on the community level than to focus on our private schools and so on, which I was doing previously with the Forge Academy. And personally, on my own journey, like I said, I'm from Mitchells Plain originally, from Cape Town. I traveled to Pretoria to study at Pretoria Tech at the time. That's now called Tshwane University. And that's where I completed my diploma, advanced diploma. And then I traveled to London, where I completed my degree. And from there, I came back to Johannesburg. and remained with my brother on that side, where I've been ever since. And I haven't lived. I've been traveling across the country. I've been traveling into Africa, where we try and spread we try and spread education around these technologies. I've worked in the communication space as well, where I've dealt with 5G most recently, and yeah, that's basically where I'm at.
Wow. Very interesting, Kirstin. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Before we get to the core, like the burning questions of today's discussion, I would also like to give Langa an opportunity to also maybe grade and maybe add something, maybe if there's anything that Tshega might have forgotten. And then after him, I'll also give Mbili to also grade and say something. Then we'll get to the burning questions of the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Thulani, and greetings to everyone joining us on this amazing space. Hopefully, this is one of many, Mr. Thulani. So I think obviously I'm just gonna be short because I believe Tshega, has given a thorough background. But I think one of the issues and of course the areas that we that keeps us awake at night is to look at how do we ensure that we develop systems that are integrated. We develop, platforms that are integrated with essentially, society, social development, economic development, talent development. So it's all of those areas where we really see the need for us to say, how do we, continuously, and that's been the thinking since day one, how do we position these programs in such a way that they are integrated? Because if you look at, for example, 3 million or so unemployed youths, that they've got the skills, that is the reality. They've got the skills, but the question is, are those skills relevant? And and when you then go back and you reverse engineer that process, you get to realize, oh, actually it's the content within education, it's actually the quality of the teaching, so it's actually policy, so it's all these different facets that are really important for us to think about when we're looking at the current problems in our society, the current challenges within the economy, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's where we have looked to position robotics, coding, STEM, digital skills, ICT, whatever you call it, to say, can this be, can this unlock the massive potential that we need to realize as a country in order for us to then see a lot of young people being easily employable, number one, young people easily creating economic opportunities for themselves, because that's another, extremely, important aspect as well, in which, again, our education content needs to address. And that is what we speak to at the academy, to say, we're developing this talent and we're instilling this culture of problem solving, this culture of entrepreneurship, this culture of developing products, looking at things within your environment. So it's all those aspects that are extremely important, and it's really interesting to see with minimal resources, because we are self-funded. We have not received any funding from a government entity or any private entity. However, of course, with the support of some of the parents within the academy, support of individual committee members who are saying, hey, we see value in what you're doing. How can I assist? Can we get this? Can we buy that? Can we do that? And through that, aspect of collaboration and coming together, we have been able to see the shift. And as enhanced Tshega is talking about, these massive achievements, which, for us, is essentially the tip of the iceberg, to say, okay, cool, we've developed this model, a new age education curriculum. How then do we scale this so that we can ensure that we can impact, kids beyond, Richards Bay, kids beyond the province, kids beyond, South Africa. So that's where essentially, the conversation is at today. Thank you.
Very interesting, Mr. Zulu. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, and this is very good, because us, I think we are just like, if you look at the position that also us as scientists we are, because what we do, we have like a reach, like at our best, we've reached above 12 million people in the country. We're just trying to create platforms for things like this, initiatives like this, so that when people in tech, people in science want to go and speak to the communities, we are there. Which I think it's also a good piece of the puzzle with with the initiatives that you guys also, and as Kirstin and Zaha has mentioned, are also on. So okay, but let me just give Miss Mbili also just an opportunity to create and sell a little bit of something intro, and then we get to the burning questions as I requested. Mr. Mbili, are you there? Okay, he's going to indicate when he's there. It looks like he is not there for now. So let's just get to it. I was just looking at the rankings recently. If you look at the rankings and you think of robotics as a field, it's one of the top 10 fields in 5R. It's ranked top 10. It's one of the fields that are ranked top 10. And if you look at how South Africa is doing there, you're looking at how South Africa is doing. Let's say if you're checking at looking at the universities in terms of research output and how much are they active in robotics, you see that the top 3 university rankings according to EduRank, recent ones, you get the names of UCT, which is number 1 in SA in terms of robotics. Your KZN is number 2 in SA, number 4 in Africa, and number 807 in the globe. And then Stellenbosch is number 3 in South Africa, number 10 in Africa, and number 987 around the world. I'm talking about robotics there. And then if you compare with some of the fields that robotics is ranked with in the top 10 of the fields that are big in the 4R era, you're looking at data science. You're looking at data science, the universities in South Africa that are also leading there in terms of research output, UCT, or there's UP, which is number 1 in this case when it comes to data science. UP is number 1 in South Africa, and it's also number 1 in Africa, and it's number 3 to 5 in the world. If you can look at UP alone there, okay, or maybe let's just also look at Stellenbosch. Stellenbosch in South Africa, if you're looking at data science, it's number 2. It's at number 2. In Africa, it's at number 3. In the world, it's at 558. Okay, why am I looking at these statistics? I'm trying to think about the state of the robotics here. How fast is robotics growing, and how well is it doing? If you look at, if you compare it to other fields like data science, and what do we think are the challenges? And these are the questions that I need you guys to comment on as people who are practically involved when it comes to robotics, not just in research, but you are on the ground implementing these solutions, teaching these kids to program these robots, and then we're interested in the challenges that you guys are finding there and everything. So robotics, you can see, it's a little bit behind if you look at data science, for instance, if you're looking at the statistics, and then maybe looking at another field of machine learning. If you look at machine learning also, machine learning, it's UP in South Africa, that is number 1, and then you have UP is number 2 in Africa, and 569 in the world. And then Stellenbosch is number 2 again in South Africa, number 5 in Africa, number 661 in the world. UCT number 3, as I say. But if you look at robotics is still, it falls below those 2, machine learning and data science. There are many others that I could do, but because of time, I'm not going to look on others. So what is your comment on the state of robotics as people who are practically involved? Do you think there is something that many other people in the community must do, or entrepreneurs must do, to help push robotics as far as you guys are concerned? Anyone who would like to start there can
go. So I'm going to take it in 2 levels. Let's talk now about say robotics, say machine learning, and As good as those numbers are in Africa, we should be worried about where we are located internationally. If we find ourselves, whether machine learning, whether data science, if we find ourselves as a country at number 300, then those numbers should worry us either way. So right now, Thulani, if you had a child who is in grade 12 and this child is like, I want to do robotics in South Africa. I want to do robotics. I don't want to do computer science, which we usually think they are the same. They are not. I don't want to do machine learning. I don't want to do software engineering. I don't want to do electronic engineering. I don't want mechatronics, because sometimes people make a mistake of thinking that mechatronics is robotics, which is not. Yes, it's an important part of it, but it is not. Where can that child apply to be part of a robotic undergrad course, be it robotics engineering or robotics BSc in robotics? Is there a place where they can apply to be part of that? The answer is there is none. You look at the prospectus in UCT, UP, University of KZN, so on. They do not have undergrad programs in those skills. They don't. So what you then find, and what you find is the reason why then we find ourselves so low in the rankings is young people then have to wait 4 years, that is 3 years of undergrad in computer science or whatever, and then a year in honors. That is where in honors, the reason why you see a lot of young people doing machine learning is in honors. They are forced usually currently to do something in machine learning. That is why there's a spike there. And then when you get to masters, that is when you then say, I would like to do my research in robotics. And that is where you start seeing young people playing with, or that is where you see people, they're no longer young at that time, that is where you see people playing with this hardware that is publicly available out there. The second thing is that is the problem is, as a country that is young, old, in our little corners, we have a culture of following too much politics in our approach to everything. So if or unless a president or unless the minister comes and stand in front of us and say, we need to do robotics, we need young people to be trained in machine learning, we need young people to be trained in this, we need young people to be trained in that, and we need them to be trained in undergrad, because these are the new jobs that are coming up are in this, then young people, or we find out that young people will not, or not even young people, people in general will not then take this challenge of doing things that we all can see are coming, but the country is just not talking about or echoing, right? It is only now that we talk about coding and robotics. When we, in our little corner, when we started and we wanted to introduce coding in schools, it was back in 2014. We went to one school to try and introduce coding, and the teacher there was like, nope, you can't do that. Children have a lot to do. They are going to break the computers. Which teacher is going to sit with them behind after school? And interestingly or scaring enough, there is still wrapped. These computers are getting old, wrapped in plastic, because they are afraid, or teachers and principals are afraid that these things are so fragile that they're gonna break. So it is that culture of saying that we have this culture of not wanting to do different, or not wanting to be different, not wanting to challenge ourselves as people to say, can I do something that is totally out, that no one has thought of, and long term, can I invest on this in a long term, looking at the future, and know that in the future this thing will give me fruits out there. And yeah, we see young people not, people in general, not really open to taking up those challenges. They are scared of taking those difficult challenges. That is why we are so low in robotics, in machine learning, in data science in this country.
Good one. Thank you very much, Mr. Tshega. I'm noting down some of the very important points that you are mentioning there, but it's okay. Maybe I'll get back to some of them. Mr. Zulu sand is up for now. I don't know. Wants to add something?
Okay. Thanks, Sihlalo. I think another suggestion, just quickly, would be, I think if there's any other comments, I think others can just drop the comments on the chat so that you can just read the questions for us, Mr. Thulani, or other points or perspectives. So I think the other issue, just to add in the layer as we laying the foundation, is the problem is in twofold. One, I think Tshega has mentioned the problem that we have with young people. For example, we've been investing heavily. I don't know how much we've invested over the past 10 years on skills development. I think I actually believe that the reason why we are broke right now is because we've been investing heavily in skills development. And it's just crazy. For example, we had a machine learning program just a few weeks ago with one university. Again, I think some 30 grand was invested in that program. So, and as I'm talking to you now, I'm not sure if there's any returns into that program or into that investment. So the point I'm driving is we've got a big problem in young people not taking the initiative themselves. We've got this sheep mentality that someone needs to come and drive the agenda. So that is one big problem that we have. We attend a lot of these programs with international organizations, AI for Good. For example, there's your arm, which Tshega is a mentor right now, under that program. Right now, South Africa, participants in South Africa, there's very few participants in South Africa. We're struggling to get young people. This is a free program. They give you a free course. They're going to give you free hardware, this and that, these opportunities, international opportunities. We are struggling to get people, young people in South Africa, the so-called youths, to get into these programs so that they can get the skills, position themselves, and open up, opportunities. You look at what is happening in West Africa, crazy stuff that's happening there. Major, massive dominance of, youngsters getting into hardware, technologies, engineering, and things like that. Of course, the structural issues, again, that point that take us back to education, but we can only blame, people, to a certain extent. At some point, we're going to have to take the initiative. We're going to have to take the responsibility ourselves to say, hey, wait a minute, we may have been coming from apartheid, but are we going to sit and moan and cry today and say that, yeah, because of apartheid, this and this and that? At some point, we need to take ownership, and take charge of our destiny. So that's problem number one. And then problem number two, we've got this big problem. And this is something that, if I can use Eskom as an example, this is a trend in South African institutions that you have administrators who are put into positions of power in technical institutions or, agencies. Agencies, for example, who are supposed to be championing these causes in South Africa, agencies that are supposed to be investing heavily in innovation, in technology, in technical skills development. Look at the CEOs there. Look at the board members there. It's people who have got MBAs and stuff like that, and accountants and all of that. So now it tells you that then a lot of the people who are supposed to be making the decision, taking these decisions and driving the agenda, do not know what it is that they're supposed to be talking about. If you throw in a robot from China, Pepper, they go crazy. They lose themselves. They're so amazed. They're seeing Pepper talking and moving around, and they're like, "Wow, this is crazy. This is robotics." You come with a prototype with wires hanging that is developed by a youngster in South Africa, black, without any resources, without any investment, without any seed funding. You say, hey, here's a prototype. They look down upon that young person because there's wires hanging around. It looks dodgy. It doesn't look complete. So now you get to understand that they do not understand the process for us to get to the point where we can start to see manufacturing thriving in South Africa. You can start to see cars being manufactured in South Africa, phones, sneakers, you name it. You see people, for example, blaming and taking a shot on Drip and Patch and saying, hey, they're manufacturing in China. Again, they don't realize that there is fundamentals. There's a certain process that we have to take as a country for us to get to a point where Drip and Patch and all of them can start to say, hey, actually, we can now manufacture locally because we've got the skills, we've got the infrastructure, we've got the policy backing, we've got the access to financing. And then lastly, the government through the DTIs and them are actively opening access to global markets, to continental markets, so that once you've manufactured locally, then you can then be able to then find access to global markets. So those are all the issues that we have to put to the table and say, these are the issues. How then do we move from this point in order to find ourselves to point B, so that we can start to unlock this, firstly, interest, develop the culture of young people, embracing technologies, embracing hardware, embracing building, embracing hacking, and then over and above that, look at our institutions and say, how do we get the competence, the necessary competence in these institutions that are supposed to be investing and backing such initiatives so that we can see the progress.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Langa. Thank you very much. Okay, very, 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 very good input there. Very good input. Okay. I also noted down some comments that I would like to also make after it, but I would also like to give Kirstin also to get a chance also for now commenting on the state of robotics as you see it also, Mr. Anderson, as you see it according to your experience and also touching on the challenges that you've had in making sure that you provide the best robotics academy that you can in the country. Like, can you please also comment on that one?
Thanks, Thulani. Sorry to bounce again off Tshega's points that he's raised. I think he's raised some very interesting and valid points. And just to bounce on that, in line with what we're trying to do right now is, as you mentioned, at university levels where most people get the real exposure. However, we're trying to get in on that low level, as you mentioned, with a young girl that has developed a medical kit for transporting organs, or the social distancing tools. We must not underestimate the abilities of our youngsters. That is one of the biggest pitfalls that we have, is that we underestimate the ability of the kids. And I think it's more the responsibility of us as now the so-called elders to provide them with the tools so that they can let their imaginations run free. Because they can see things within their daily lives. They can see the shortfalls. They can see the shortcomings of society in their daily lives. Yes, they are exposed to all the politics and things out there. But with that, we need to enable them to come up with their own solutions. As you mentioned, teachers also, unfortunately, our teachers aren't upskilled enough. A lot of teachers are, our educational programs is very outdated. But that's why, as with WeCode and the groups that I'm participating with, we are trying to also run the teacher programs, we're doing short courses just to bring the teachers up to scratch, basically, getting them to the point of confidence where they can relate to the students. Because whether the kids are learning this at school or not, they are on YouTube, they are on TikTok, they're getting exposed to all these things. They are hacking their own phones. I mean, I know kids in the community that are basically jailbreaking their phones and running all sorts of funny little programs and software that will shock you. And it's just a matter of providing them with the right tools in order to get ahead. Maybe yes, we want to do formal training and all those things, all those wonderful things. But with that also, there's a cost associated, and a lot of children don't necessarily have access to be able to attend university or tertiary education. Most of us rely on NASFAS, or we rely on sponsorship, uncles and aunts to step in to help us get our education. And a lot of the time that is not feasible, which is why it's very, very, very important that we hit these kids at a young age. And even if we just go at a low level, just teaching them computational thinking as a start point. I think that is where we are focused, and that is one of the key things that from my side, that I think that we should be aiming at. One of the things that I've also experienced in terms of communication is that in Africa, we are now in a position where we can leapfrog a lot of the older technologies. Europe, the US, a lot of the more established first world countries, they had the technology where they started with GSM, of 2G, 3G, all the stages, and they're now pushing towards 5G. The difficulty with that is because they've invested so heavily in previous technologies, it's not that easy for them to progress onto 5G. Whereas in Africa, most of our countries here have not had the basic infrastructure in order to communication infrastructure. So the advantage that we have is that we can jump straight ahead to 5G. And the same applies within technology spaces. Yes, the other countries may have a head start on us, but the playing field is level these days. Because we have not invested so deeply and we're not so deeply rooted in a lot of technologies, the playing field is open for us to jump ahead and potentially, overtake everybody else. We have also in Africa, we have the largest, our population, we have much more youthful population in comparison to a lot of countries. So there's going to be a massive brain drain one of these days as people in the other countries start unfortunately dying off, and then but with the next coming generations, Africa needs to lead the way. And when it comes to education, it's so important that from our leadership, I know that we are committed to, in 2023, they've been trialing in various schools across the country. I think there was about, I don't want to misspeak here, but there's less than 100 schools that they've been trialing coding and robotics in. And they are going to open up the curriculum according to the government's plan in 2023 for your, I think it's from your grade or basically your primary school kids. And then in 2025, they plan to push it out into grade 8. And but even the schools that they're planning to push these programs into, it's not even touching the tip of the iceberg if you consider how many schools we have in this country. Then also on the when it comes to the actual requirements for robotics, as you mentioned earlier, we look at this fancy. I've got some very fancy equipment, guys. I've got access to some beautiful equipment. But at the end of the day, what you really need is simply processing power, some sort of integration layer, and then from there, your imagination can run wild. If I look at the drones that we are running, it's based off, perhaps you can use Raspberry Pi, you can use Arduinos, you can use these micro processing boards, and then you attach whatever you want to attach from there. Whether you're attaching wheels, you're attaching motors with rotors, whether you're attaching sensors, all these different things. The robotics field is so broad that we are finding that the kids are using the same equipment for our agricultural systems, for our construction systems. They are finding ways and means to apply robotics to spaces we might not think of. And one of the challenges that we need to overcome is this thinking that we need high end in order to get achievements. We can start on the low end. We can push with our recycling initiatives where we can use cheaper materials. We can recycle plastic bottles to use them as filament for 3D printers. And from there, using our STL files, we can design and print out claws, wings, wheels, whatever the components are that we need. With 3D printing, we can do all this. There's been advances in metal printing as well, even wood printing. So the space is open. It's just a matter of us opening up our eyes and opening up our minds to thinking that we just need to enable the kids with whatever we have available to us and not try to make this overcomplicate things. We need to keep it simple. If we can teach them just the fundamentals. For example, in our side, we teach kids topics like introduction to loops, events, parallel programming, variables, if statements, logic operators, functions, parameters, how to integrate with your bump switches, accelerometers. We just give them the tools, basically. And then from there, they can decide for themselves what it is that they wish to build. And trust me, these kids know what they want. These kids know what they need, but they just need to be enabled.
I like how you closed off, Mr. Anderson. They just need to be enabled. Very, very, very good point also there. Very good point. I noted a lot of points also there. That's maybe I will also have a question or comment on later about. So right now, and then there was also the part that where you talk about the government's announcements that they are going to introduce robotics now and coding in for kids in basic education. And then I know, Kirstin, you've also shared your opinion a little bit on that one. Do you think we are ready? Like, what's your take on that? Do you think it's a right approach? Like, your comment on that one. The government announcements that they are going to introduce the coding and robotics in high school. So it's just that.
Okay, just on
Anyone
the
would
point of, if I may speak on that one, I'm sorry to follow up there, but I
okay,
think
no problem.
if our kids they can start off at a much younger age. Unfortunately, many of our kids have dropped off in high school in terms of the attitude, in terms of the ideology. It's sometimes very difficult to get through to high schoolers. I've been at the schools across this country, and it's tough across the board because of they see how their parents have struggled. We have massive unemployment rates. They see their older brothers and sisters who have studied law, studied these various subjects. They've seen how they have difficulty finding positions and jobs, and it leaves them in a terrible state of dismay. This is a mental health month at the moment, and a lot of our people are suffering, especially post-COVID, with mental health issues, including our children. They just haven't been diagnosed as yet. So I think that we need to get in at these kids much earlier. If you're looking at because if you're looking at science, technology, engineering, math, STEM, what goes into STEM ties in with English, ties in with your reading, ties in with your mathematics and sciences. If we can get at these kids much earlier, I think it will be they'll get a lot more productivity, even if it's just planting that seed and the idea of the importance of robotics, automation within robotics, not necessarily just a physical little robot walking around, but automating processes, whether it be whether it's our factories, whether it's our ESCOM, automating processes in ESCOM where immediately when something happens, there's triggers and action gets taken. We don't wait for someone to dial someone up in order to take action. So that was just my point on that, but I don't want to take too much of everybody else's time.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes. Thank you very much, Christian. You still want to say something on that?
we do need. I think we can never say there's a right time or a wrong time. I mean, for schools to start doing robotics or for young people to start doing robotics. The approach by government to enter into that space and say, yeah, let's do robotics. It's commendable. It's a great one. Um, it's an approach which we all understand that should be happening, right? The problem they are facing, though, or the problem which the question which everyone is now asking themselves is, we are introducing it, that is robotics into schools. Who is teaching it? That is the question. Who have you trained to teach it? And so we find ourselves as a country that we're in a position where we wake up in one day and we are like, oh, good God, we are here. What do we do from here? So that is where now government found itself. They found themselves after COVID in a position where they're like, oh, we need robotics in schools, but there were no trainings for teachers who are going to teach robotics. So this is now what is happening. They simply taking anyone who is younger than 30 years old, who is a teacher, and they're saying, you are going to go to training and you are going to then be the one teaching robotics, even those trainings are not happening. The other thing that we need to then also discuss is the curriculum, which has been tabled. How how effective are we looking at it, or how effective do we think that is going to be? You you need the industry. We do not, or we cannot develop things in silos. The industry's involvement in these things is important. Again, we are going to find ourselves in a position where we say we have trained young people in this, and they get on the other side to say to the industry, oh, we have this, this is what we know. And the industry is like, but that is not how we want it, or that is not how it's supposed to be. So yeah, it is. I think it is commendable. It is bringing the discussion, but also I feel like they just woke up someday and they were like, ooh, we need to do this. And then now there's that small place where we are stuck with who then is going to be teaching the robotics and the coding or whatever in schools.
Mm. Interesting point, Christine and Tshega. Very, very interesting. Okay, let me give Tshega Langa right straight to short just after you, because I can see he's burning now.
Yeah, no, it's a penny one, and I think the point that Tshega just made about the involvement of the industry is extremely important, and there was a big miss by the Department of Basic Education, because I think I did see a legal report as to the makeup of the task team, as we account of task teams. The task team that was putting together that curriculum, I'm not sure. The in terms of the competence of the people, and as well as the expertise of the industrial experience and expertise of the people who were in the panel putting together the curriculum. But and one of the other aspects that we facing as well, and that I think are a barrier which we need to break down, is the politicizing everything. I think it's highlighted this point earlier, but so here's where the problem is at. For example, when it comes to robotics, and as much as I believe that, I think it is, opening access. We want to open up access and then things like that, but I think we should also be practical as well with how we go about it. So now, if we want to politicize this issue, for example, let me just give an example. So when we present our academy, our academy in the main does not necessarily cater for what you would call the underprivileged communities. So the primary target market that we speak to is not the underprivileged communities. And there's reasons why that is the case. And I think I did mention earlier that we are self-funded, and at the end of the day, we have to run, a business that we hope in the near future is going to be profitable. And current with underprivileged communities without funding, it's essentially impossible for us to conduct, programs in that space sustainably. So when we present, though, to either, people in government or whatever, the first question that they would ask is, yeah, we see you guys are doing this great work, but what about the poor? We've gotten this question so much such that, now I'm saying to Tshega, the next time we get this question, the answer that is going to come out of there, I'm sure, I'm certain the recipient is not going to like it, because essentially what we are faced with is to say, whatever great work that is being done does not mean much, because it is not by the poor, so-called poor communities that are doing this great work. So essentially what you are then saying also is, these programs should only be available for underprivileged communities. The question is, where are robotics training programs in private schools currently? Private schools are also struggling as well. We interact with, a number of them. They have not figured it out as well. So to approach it with the mindset that says that, no, these are privileged schools, they've got all of this, therefore when it comes to robotics, now we are now in the fourth industrial revolution, now let us focus on this one. I find that problematic as well, and I'm not sure it's going to get us to where we want to get as a country. So I think it's all those boxes and barriers that we continuously want to put in place when we're discussing, economics. For starters, we're a majority, African country. We do not need for us to do so much such that when we're designing a program, we are saying, no, this one is designed for the majority. In any case, it will benefit the majority, whether we like it or not, because the fact is the majority of the people in South Africa are Africans or black, as they call them. So those are all the barriers, and I'm not sure, is it the traumas and whatnot, but yeah, the lens in which we look at development, the lens in which we look at economics, opportunities, entrepreneurship, business, is such that it is heavily influenced by politicians and by party politics. And that is why I think we find ourselves in this situation, such that if there's an expert who happens to be white, then suddenly we may not necessarily want to get the expert onto the table so that we can discuss and say, hey, how do we design this? Because that person is white. So now, you see where, we are, limiting ourselves by continuously boxing and in these boxes and categories and all of that. And I possibly believe that is why we cannot get basic things such as, can we get the industry into the table so that we have the understanding, the insight as where the industry is and where the industry is going to be? And then how do we reverse engineer that process again to say, how should then the curriculum be? What is the culture? What are the sort of, educators and instructors that we need, therefore, who can best deliver on this mandate?
Very, very interesting. Very interesting, Langa. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. What I'm noting as you guys are speaking, Kirstin, Tshega, and you, Langa, I think a point that keeps on appearing from each and every one of you is the point of incompetence as one of the problems that is facing the growth of robotics in the country. Tshega asked a very important question of who teaches it. It's the government is announcing that robotics and coding are going to be introduced, but who's teaching it? You see, so and then you might end up having people who are also incompetent there who are going to teach it, and then the problem recurs again, and then it's a loop. It doesn't solve itself. And then also under incompetence, the issue of politicians who are in control of such projects, and then you're having these projects. This just launched maybe this project on robotics that does A, B, and C, and then people who are making important decisions. There are people who are politicians who have no idea of what is happening or of the subject matter. In this case, robotics, and then also the issue of politics that are involved everywhere. I think those are the points that I'm noting. So I would like to now ask you, all of you, the solutions. What do you think should be the solutions to this? Because the field has to move. Robotics has to move forward. It's important for the country. But what do we do? Because it's one of the things that we were talking about with Mbili some other time that now, man, see, we actually need to have also scientists and people in tech, also in these fields. Like, for instance, in law, you see, because you have science, you have technologies that we are having here that we come up with, but then there are regulations that have to regulate how these technologies work, and that can delay the progress also. And also in different fields, you can name it. Even people who are in politics who make decisions and then who pass policies about this. We need to have some people from tech and also in science that I think should be involved there. But I don't know. I would like to hear your take on that one. The proposed solution for the problem that we are having. Some of it I know you've mentioned in your talks, but I would like you to mention anything that you didn't mention that you'd like to add as a solution to the incompetence that you are having in the country, which actually stunts the growth of the field. Also, while responding, also just to extend to the listeners or to the people in the community, what can they do to help this fight for the field to grow? A person at home who might be an entrepreneur or like any just a general person at home, if there's anything that you can say also, what can they do to help with this issue, in your view?
Okay, can I come in saying that the members are still processing?
Okay, yes, you can come with that.
Okay,
and then from there, before you go, Langa, apologies. Before you go, and then from there, we'll just have two sections of the talk, and then we'll be done. I think we'll be looking at the initiatives that your academies, personally, are actually busy with, and then we'll look at the future, and then we'll be done with the talk. So, okay.
Thank you. So I think with regards to the solution, obviously there's no one answer to this, and there's no one approach. We need a multi-pronged approach in such that it's different initiatives, different strategies by different institutions, different individuals, programs, and things like that. And this is one of them. This space that we're having here right now is one of the solutions. Having conversations such as this, taking such conversations onto Facebook, taking this, for example, this recording here. Is it possible for us to take this recording, we blast it on our YouTube channels, we share it with the people in these positions. We know them, we interact with them. They're not from space. We send them these recordings and say, hey, listen here. So those are the sort of things and the tools and mechanisms that we need to employ, mechanisms of influence. The next time we have such a space, can we look at one public figure or influencer, for example, who can come in and say, hey, can you please come in here and add your voice, or can you amplify such a platform, so that we drive the agenda We drive the conversations online whilst we're having also the offline conversations as well. We're having the interactions with government agencies, non-governmental agencies, and and things like that. So obviously it's different mechanisms and strategies and approaches, and also in our own individual rights. And that's why I think you would see the content also on our site as well, us sharing some of the content. It's not as consistent as we'd like it to be because of the issue of resources, but as individual organizations, we need to actively put out content. We need to actively put out information, educate with the purpose to influence, because content and media is a tool of influence. It is a tool of selling your ideas, and we need to be consistent and be aggressive with that approach. We need to befriend our our people in media spaces, and you guys scientists have been doing amazing. For example, in the space of science, through Ukozi FM and through a lot of other radio stations that you have managed to infiltrate over the years. So it's all those things and efforts that we need to ensure that we implement. But I think one of the conversations that we've been having also, with Tshega of late, is to say, perhaps also, I think we used to do this back in the day, but we raffled, a few feathers, and then we said, okay, maybe let's tone it down and things like that. But now we're like, actually, now, because we're in a different level, and the battles that we're fighting now at a way higher level than they were before, essentially, which then means we're at a new level. So we may have to, call that back, that strategy, to say we need to be aggressive. And being aggressive sometimes means also saying things that are uncomfortable. But so long as they are the truths, we need to say them. We need to vocalize them. We need to write those status updates, and that upset certain people. We need to call upon certain institutions, because you can only go so far in saying government agencies. At some point, you need to mention them by name. You need to be calling them to task and say, Technology Innovation Agency, what are you doing? You need to account, because again, these institutions are government institutions, and by default they are our institutions. These are our taxpayers' monies. These are, so we need to take them to task using our platforms of influence, which is social media, your LinkedIn's, your Facebooks, and whatnot. We need to put out videos. We need to make them uncomfortable, because they are the ones who continuously fail us by these decisions. Because once they pass a bill, once they pass a particular policy, for you to amend that, it's going to take you a very long time. So once they've taken a decision on that curriculum, it means we are screwed at least for the next 5 to 10 years before that curriculum can be reviewed. So it means that, therefore, we need to be actively participating in these conversations. Of course, it comes with the risks, the threats and things like that. But are we a generation that is going to sit it out and say, hey, I'm scared of dying, and therefore I'm not then going to participate in shaping the future that my child, that our children are going to be a part of? Is that our legacy for us to then say, your grandkids will be asking you, so grandpa, you were in sciences, you were in robotics. How come that, we ended up with such, a product, a system? What would be your answer? You'd say, no, I was scared. They were going to shoot me, or whatever. It cannot be. That cannot be our reality as this current generation. Each and every generation has its own mandate and its own struggle. And this is our struggle as this generation. The previous generation fought at that level. That was beautiful. We appreciate it. Now we are here. Now we need to take them to task. We need to be aggressive. We need to be arrogant also, because we approach them with, humility. We want this assistance. No, we have to demand the backing, because we are putting in the work. We are showing in, the results. There's impact. We've got the expertise. Why are you going on and calling in an expert in Europe, a so-called expert. We attended a session by SIDA this week. We were so angry. We were so angry. They called in an old Magogo from Europe who clearly does not have an idea what robotics is. Just put together a bunch of slides and attended one or two conferences. And now SIDA has got the audacity to then book her to come and lecture us onto how to then enter the robotics industry and what are the opportunities in the industry. You see, that is an insult. So those are the things that we need to take upon, unfortunately, and grab the bull by the horns ourselves, because no one is going to do it on our behalf, and say we need to take them to the task and ensure that, we influence the decision-making process, whilst, of course, we're implementing on the ground and ensuring that there's impact, and as well as the results and the expertise as well.
On my side, I would like to focus more on what each person can do. If you are a youth, 18 years plus, and you want to be in this industry, unfortunately, the only way to do it is by working. It's a new industry. We are making it up as we go. That's the reality. Get yourself those sensors, get yourself those microcomputers, look for the information and start working. We need young people to take initiative and really work on producing solutions. And if enough of us are doing that, if enough of us are showing what we think robotics, what we think IoT, what we think whatever technology is from our little corner, other people will listen. But if not enough of us are doing it, then we're going to have a problem. As I'll go at Work Robotics Academy, we have always been dedicated to supporting young people in these industries. We are mentoring in a bunch of places like Brick Skills Challenge. We're mentoring in the ARM Embedded Challenge, where we're mentoring in Tiny Machine Learning. We have a program this weekend in partnership with Durban University of Technology, Moses Kotane Institute, at Durban University of Technology, where young people are supposed to come through. They are supposed to work, be introduced into these technologies and build solutions. And if they do a good job, win prizes that will allow them to continue working in this industry. To parents, if you are a parent, if you have a little child, take it upon yourself to ensure that you find out what kind of a future you need to build for your children. We cannot run education on autopilot. That is, parents cannot run education on autopilot. It is 90%, and these people don't get, but it's true. It's 90%, or well, that is a little bit excessive, but it's about 80% of the parents. It is 80% of the parents' job to ensure that their children are educated than it is for a school. The school that you take them to only take that small 20% in ensuring that you are, or in ensuring that the child at the end become what they want to be. So the conversations that you're having with your child, the places that you choose your child to go to for education, the extramural activities that you choose for your children, you need to choose those things with intention of building your children for the future. And then you need to then ask yourself, if I do not have this, or if South Africa doesn't have this, or if South Africa is not doing this to my satisfaction, where do I get it with that satisfaction? We just recently found out that it is much easier, in fact, to study internationally than it is to study locally. And internationally, they have all these courses that are new, that are pushing for the future boundaries. Therefore, look at that. We are talking about a new era where there is a study from home kind of things. Does your children need to go to a university where he wakes up every morning, carry a bag, and go to a class, or can you find a way to support them? That experience of going to classes, it is important. I'm not saying it's not, but we need to, or as parents, we need to position ourselves and our children in the best way possible to ensure that they come out on the other side better. And again, it is a place where we really have been actively working on advising parents. We've been actively telling them what they should look at, and they can always contact us to say, guys, we need your help, and show us or help us understand where we can go, and then we can go there. But that individual individualistic approach is also as important. Our leaders are a reflection of our society. That is an unfortunate part. And therefore, if then we are looking at leaders and we are thinking in our own little corner that most of them are not, I'm not saying all, but if we are thinking that our government is incompetent, then that is our reflection as a society, whether we like it or not. It means we as a society are also incompetent. And therefore, we need to, in our little corners, change the way we are thinking about stuff, invest in the right stuff, and we are anyways building the leaders of the future. If we fail to build the leaders of the future for what we believe leaders should look like, then we are going to continuously be a failing society. So that is what I think individualist in individual positions we should do as solutions to these problems.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir. Very good points there. Noted. I'm not sure whether Langa's hand was up. If yes, you can say something, Langa, then I can go to Kirstin. Or
No,
if not, then Kirstin can go.
No, sir. It was not up.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much. And then I think in that case, I would love to give it to Kirstin also to answer the same, like on the solutions, as mentioned before. Since we've all identified that the problem is incompetence in like from like who teaches this coding and robotics in the schools if the government implements, and then the politicians running this robotics programs when they don't have a clue of what they are talking about, and then the involvement of politics also in projects like this. What do you think is the solution, Mr. Anderson? I know you've mentioned some, but just to add on what you've mentioned, if you have anything more.
Thank you, Thulani. So, as I'm sitting here listening to my peers, it's a very, very difficult question to answer. And yes, there isn't just one point of attack that we can just gun for and say, this is the way, this is how we're going to do this thing. I'm thrown back to my college days. When I started out in university, I was overwhelmed with, the guys around me. I had an old AMD machine those days. I think it was a K5. I come from the days of 486 computers, before the Pentium 1s and all that sort of thing. And looking back, I remember something that my brother told me that just rings in my ears right now. He told me that the guys in India are coding on paper. And a lot of these guys, these are the top developers in the world are in India. Microsoft is basically the entire, they get most of the people that are developing things right now are coming from India. but those people have a fantastic work ethic, and they don't let technology and restraints hold them back. People may have limited access to the internet, but people will go to the library if you really want to do this for yourself. The tools are there, everything is there. It's just a matter of picking up that book or just getting into it. And also, as Langa and the guys mentioned, that there needs to be some sort of societal shift also to support these kids. When we look at social media and we look at influencers, they are peddling products, which is basically pushing commercial ideals and, flaunting brands and advocating, the latest, greatest alcohol brand or their own products and so on. But yes, I do believe my peers were right in saying that we need to be aggressive about how we put our things out there on the internet. Let's support those young people that are coming with fresh ideas. I know a young man in Dobsonville that developed a system to monitor for leaks, for example. So when when people are chucking rubbish in the drains and all that sort of things, pipes get blocked up, the drains get flooded. Now there's pouring of sewage out in the streets. People are getting sick and all that. And what this young man did is he developed a system that attaches itself to the drain cover with a sensor that can immediately send out an SMS to our municipality to alert them water levels are rising. There's something wrong at this point. And the solution is so cost effective, right? But obviously there's political narratives. People want to steal the ideas for themselves, all that type of thing. So in the end, I think there needs to be a mindset shift in our society. We need to support our youth, even on ground level. Everybody needs to get involved. Moms and dads, yes. Uncles and aunts, yes. If you have an old computer, or old components, don't just scrap these things. Let's figure out ways to repurpose stuff. It's just a very emotional subject for me. We need to move away from competing with one another in society. We need to move towards incorporating my neighbor's children as my children. The people in my neighborhood is my family. Let me share what knowledge I have with the people around me. Start with the people right next door to you. If you've got an extra little bit of money to an old phone, pass it on to the kids next door, or pass it on to somebody that doesn't have. Let's start sharing the information. Let's start sharing the technology. Your old equipment can be repurposed. I can take an old Pentium 1, I can run a Linux operating system on there, and I can run it just as fast as any Microsoft platform. I can run it almost as fast as a Windows 10, because we know there's issues around a lot of things around the technology these days, because it is commercially driven. There's hindrances built into the platform. My iPhone battery runs low, not because my battery is damaged or anything, but there is software built in to retard my battery to prevent the functionality, so that I am forced to buy the next level of technology. However, if I jailbreak my iPhone, I could unlock all the abilities again. I'm not advocating for that type of thing. Obviously, I don't want to advocate for any legal processes, but we need to rethink the way that we approach things. And when it comes to the kids, if I can just say that coding and digital literacy is so important. The development of computational thinking, for example, it involves taking a massive problem and breaking it down to single action steps. And that can be applied broadly. We can think of it in an abstract way to say that the things that we are teaching our kids can then be applied to a variety of problems. If we take every situation and break it down to its simplest steps. So it's about teaching kids that way of thinking. It's like building a sandwich. You need bread, you need some butter, you need lettuce, tomato, some cheese. and you need to stack it in a particular order in order to complete your sandwich. If I give somebody this fancy baguette sandwich and things and I just throw it at them, and they should be able to break it down to its functional steps, and that can apply to any problem in your life. So if we teach kids the thinking, if we go back and we change even for our adults, take a retrospective and get back to encouraging thinkers, and in highlighting the thinkers out there. Influence, instead of influencing your product and the latest fashions and Nike and Adidas and all these things, use our influence to prop up those who are making the change. When it comes to my peers who are running their programs, the academies that have shown success, if we can support those academies, whether you're giving them if they trying to self-sustain, let's go and fund those people, right? If everybody puts a 10 Rand towards a situation, you can bring about so much change. We can also look at perhaps being more service-orientated and taking the products that we produce, that the kids produce, and creating markets for these things. But having a background with 5G and so on, I think that one of the most important things that we need to start considering is that we need to think of internet or access to information that needs to become a basic right, just like access to housing, food, water, electricity are basic necessities. We need to think of access to information, access to internet as a basic necessity. If we need to approach certain companies to say that, can you, just like on my phone package, I have a data package, but then a certain amount of data is specific for YouTube or specific just for Twitter and so on, and that is locked by the network. Maybe they can come about with some sort of system where we can make information available to our kids. Or if you have Wi-Fi in your building during COVID, I split my internet access between two. I split up my Wi-Fi to say I gave everybody in my complex access to my 5G, right? Because I had uncapped fiber. So I gave everybody access to my 5G password. And I just spoke to everybody and said, guys, can we just be fair about things? If you do have internet access, please use your own internet access. This is for people that don't have. We have high-speed fiber coming to a lot of our homes, but our very neighbors don't have access to that to the internet. If we can start sharing, we can start subsidizing, we can start helping one another out. I think if we can go back to that communal way of thinking, I think it can bring about a lot of change. Sorry that I'm jumping all over the place, but as I said, this is a difficult subject. It's not an easy subject. And yeah, we just need to come together and keep supporting the academies. I wanna get in touch with Langa, Tshega, everybody, and I think we need to just support our fellow academies. Let's get out there. Let's pump this thing up in social media, and yeah, let's bring about that change, guys.
Wow.
What a sermon in Langa's words. That was very powerful. Langa, you want to say something?
I'm blessed. Powerful, psychist.
Yes.
Wow. That is so many psychist. So what I want to say, just to lace it up, without running the powerful sermon, is to say, by what Kirstin is saying, we once did something in our beginning stages, and I was reminding Tshega just a few weeks ago about it, to say when we started the Robotics Academy, we did not have Arduino and then all these things and all these fancy things and sensors. What we did was we said, parents, just bring your old computers, bring your old phones, and they were very happy to do that, And the kids started by breaking these things apart, opening them apart, and learning about PC boards and and these different components within the phones. And then we quickly moved away from that. So now I'm reminded because I think a month or so ago, I'm just checking through the Arduino's website and resources. Then I get a paper, that they've been doing a study or a sample or a pilot, whatever you call it, in I think it's somewhere in Germany, where they were piloting that model to say that it is much easier to introduce kids by, making them fix, the basic, electronics that we use, at home and that we use on a day-to-day basis, and using that as the foundation, to build up from there. So with that said, the point I'm trying to make is to say, and one of the things that I always say, you cannot solve a problem with the same mindset that created it. And we continue to make this mistake as South Africa so many times. For example, a lot of the infrastructure issues that we have today are because of the tendering system, for example. Now, if you want to solve that problem, then you issue out a tender. Now, you are still locked up in that, toxic and evil system. So the issue of, for example, democratizing STEM, therefore, we do not need to spend billions, do not need to spend even millions, perhaps. All we need to do is to say, again, community members, those old phones, those old Nokia 3310s and whatnot, go and dump them to your school. Let the schools be your e-waste centers. Dump them there. The teachers work with your kids, get a classroom. Let's give you the screws, let's give you this, open these things up, and then let's start learning, because we've been on a massive consumption cycle. It's been a big consumption cycle. And there's nothing that we have not consumed at this point. We are buying and buying and buying. Oh, a phone breaks down, we buy another one. We continuously are buying, which is really toxic because of course, the capitalism. So now, how do we then simplify that and say, no, we're not going to go to tender as government. Yes, we'd love to get a tender and whatnot, but as a country, let us start with the fundamentals. What is it that we have within the environment? Let us utilize that, and then let us use that as a base that we can then build from, so that we can build up the culture, because without the culture, you can do anything. And that is why Kirstin was talking about India. They built the culture. And that is why now they are taking over all the tech companies. They're dominating like nobody's business. West Africa, the culture of building is there. Whatever environment that you put them in, they thrive, they dominate. What is our culture?
Speaking of West Africa, so when we find ourselves sitting in these conversations, international conversations, and that is why I am worried for South Africa. I'm worried for South Africans that we're going to starve. Let me just put it nicely and say we're going to starve. So conversations in these discussions and meetings and all that are international, the people who come at the forefront Africa-wise, when these guys are saying, what are we doing in Africa? The young people who come on the forefront are young people in West and East Africa. They come out and they work. I was just checking today, one of our international partners have actually delivered equipment to a country, I think Kenya. I'm just not sure, but I think to Kenya, because those young people got the machine learning opportunity and they worked. I calculated it's like, so it was this challenge. It's this challenge that was happening in South Africa. We are barely getting to 10 young people competing. In Kenya alone, I think they delivered about 30 hardware equipment for young people to continue with the challenge, because those young people took the chance. Thulani, so when we were doing this, I spoke to our previous university, and I was like, is it possible that we have this with the university? Can we really try this and get young people in the university doing it? And what I was told was, and I'm saying this because that really frustrated me. What I was told was, though the students are about to write exams and therefore they cannot partake in this. It was not even taken to students. Now the question is, are the students in East or West Africa not taking tests or exams? We do not live life in singular, and therefore that notion of saying exams are the most important thing in this universe, when you're writing exams nothing else happens, it's flawed. And so they are taking over. When you check in these organizations, technology organizations, if you check in there is Africans who are part of those organizations in the higher up. Those Africans are not South Africans. And when you continuously again check, when these companies invest back in Africa, we think they are coming to South Africa. They are not anymore. Your Microsoft opened the labs. They opened them in was it Kenya again? They did not open them in South Africa. When the CEOs think of visiting Africa, they don't come to South Africa. I think the CEO of Google did visit Africa just a few months ago. He did not come to South Africa. When Mark Zuckerberg wanted to come and check Africa, South Africa was not on his list, and therefore we are not even competing. I mean, even in Africa itself, we are not in competition. We are simply spectating and again consuming the successes of other countries.
No, guys, Joe. Yeah, I'm just digesting, like, so much information and so much knowledge dropped here. Wow, I'm very much impressed about, especially also about the suggestion that you guys are sharing, Kirstin, and Langa, all of you guys. That one of collecting e-waste and actually taking them and then having kids actually disassemble it and then you teach them. That might also actually even encourage them, motivate them to learn more about it, and then it can be one of the ways to introduce them to things like robotics and stuff, or any other technologies that are related to it. So I'm very, very much impressed. Very, very much impressed. There's so much that knowledge that you guys are dropping. But also, Tshega, thank you very much for that input in that exam comment today. I was laughing when you were saying. I was very much laughing. So, okay, I would like to move us to the next and closer to the end of our talk today. I wanted us to talk also now, look at the initiatives. So, what initiatives do you guys in your organizations have? Any initiative, and also the ones that are opportunities for the young ones who are out there who will listen to this recording, because some of them ask us to record these spaces and then they listen some other time because maybe they don't have data, many issues, but they will listen to this and then they will find something. Initiatives that your organizations or you personally are involved in currently. That's some of them which might have opportunities for the community or any other stakeholders involved. Yeah, I'm not sure what I must because I want at least before 9 so that we can end Yeah, yeah, just initiatives. Anyone who can start.
Okay. On
Okay.
our side, we obviously have paid initiatives and those ones that we are running in partnership with our partners. The paid ones, we have our Outdoor and Work Robotics Academy. That is where young people are able to come and they get in there, they pay a subscription fee, and then they come out on the other side with the skill. But through different partners, we constantly take out calls or post about calls for challenges, for opportunities, be it breaks thing, be it embedded learning challenge thing, be it AI for good kind of a project. So people should just look forward to those, and when we take them out, sign up, contact us directly to say, hey, I want to be part of this challenge, I saw it, and we will gladly be there to assist them, and ensure that they come out on the other side good, or as good as good as they can be. So we are doing a lot of those. We are doing a lot of community initiatives. If any of or any organization is also interested in partnering, and schools also, if they are interested in partnering with us, they are open to contacting us, and we are always ready to have those conversations. Be it you want a robotics academy inside your school, we are able to set that up. But obviously, that then put us on a certain kind of people. But also, if your school would like to have the 1 day programs where you are just revitalized and you are getting young people to have a conversation about this, again, we do, or we are open to those discussions. We are running this weekend. We are having a very huge program again. We are looking at like 6 events within 2 days. We have a makeathon where young people will be challenged to produce solutions for using microcontrollers and embedded systems, solutions to the problems that we've been seeing on the N3 corridor, where the economy of South Africa is losing a lot of returns because of a lot of money because of the whatever that is happening there. There is a lot of ups and downs that are happening there. So young people are challenged to come and try to produce solutions, bring forth their knowledge, and they have opportunities to win prizes, laptops. We have laptops, good laptops. We have tablets. We have a whole lot of other things. 100,000 rand worth of prizes to be won that night. It is an all-night thing. It starts on Friday, 2 o'clock. They can just check innoftech.lab, and they'll have all the details there. Other than that, we have a hackathon also. So both, or this event is, so they are a Moses Kotane Institute events as part of the expo, or they are in partnership with Moses Kotane, which is a research institute here in KZN. The second one is the hackathon, also in partnership with Moses Kotane Institute. The hackathon will be looking at I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, there's a hackathon. That is where you build a software, or young people will build a software. Again, prizes to be won there, and a lot of support to be provided to post the event. Saturday, we have Tech Expo. That is the conference where we'll be sitting with people from industry, people from government, discussing the technology industry. So, and then other than that, we're gonna have kids coding challenge, where young kids between the ages of 8 and 12 are going to be competing in coding and prizes to be won there. We have a gaming competition also for young people. So where they're going to be competing, I think, in FIFA. Again, we're doing that in partnership with the kids coding challenges with in partnership with La Grande Academy. The gaming challenges in partnership with Go Digital SA. All this will be brought to young people by Algo at Work Robotics Academy, Durban University of Technology, together with youth in ICT. So, yeah, young people can come through and have fun on that weekend.
Wow, so much on your plate. So much on your plate the upcoming weekend, Mr. Tshega. And there was one group of computer science graduates who were telling me they're interested in the advert. I said, you guys must come and join the station so that you can ask questions yourself. They wanted to join in and they were asking how should they? But I think if they look, if they just click to Invertech club, I hope they can register if that's correct.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
innovtech.lab. I'm just gonna drop it on the reply so that uh, they can see it. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
innovtech.lab.
Okay, thank
The
you very much.
website has
I
got
think
all the
they
details. Yeah, the website is on the comments. Yeah, that's what we are doing. So we are doing quite a lot for young people. Sometimes it gets a little bit frustrating, when they are unable to or they don't come through, or when we get them into these challenges and they do not complete them. So they get to not receive some of the perks that come with it. But we are doing quite a lot, like a lot for young people that I can't talk about all of them here. So yeah, just follow. We have this calls coming out constantly, and young people can partake or choose the ones that work with them or the one that they align with. But we deal mostly with hardware development, that is development of robotics using again hardware.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very much interesting. Okay, Kirstin, I think I must give you now also the initiatives that you guys are involved in.
Thank you so much, Thulani. So, hey, I'm overwhelmed by all the programs, the 100,000 in prizes, and some amazing, amazing things you guys are doing there. Well done, Tshega. Guys, sure, I don't know what to say. I'm just feeling very, very inspired right now by your hackathons and those things. But on my side, we do run we have still got the Forge Academy. People can look up forgeacademy.coza and there's a lot of programs that is available. Those are paid for courses, but very, very good courses if they wish to and enhance their own skill sets and advance themselves. For the people in the Kagiso, Greater Johannesburg area, our center has started again now. Unfortunately, we went through that looting last year. It was a bit difficult, but we have reopened the center and we have relaunched now with Heritage Day. And with our June 16th, we had some activations to encourage people to come back, and our doors are open. So people are free. Walk-ins are most welcome to come through to Kagiso. Come and see what we're doing around drones and coding, and as well as our agri-tech. We currently have an indoor hydroponics farm where we are using the agri-tech to control the hydroponics farm and showing people how to grow veggies, how to sustain themselves. So we're trying to give a nice holistic thing there, a showcase of sorts. So they must feel free to come and visit us at Kagiso, and they can also look up WeCode. That's WECODE. WeCode.coza. Come and check out our site. Get in touch with us and see if you wish to enroll into one of our programs. WeCode, we are focused more on going out to the schools So we are approaching a lot of the schools. So if you want your school to be involved in this sort of thing, hit us up with your school's information, principals, educators. Please feel free to come through and come and speak to us. And let's see how we can get the programming classes and things at your running at your schools. We do have sponsors, so we do have people that are supporting us in our initiatives. So there is potential for us to, even if it's just to garner interest in your kids with our activations, our one-day programs. We would be so glad to come out to your schools and just give those kids just a boost and exposure to technology. But that's it for me, guys. I need to get going. But thank you so much once again, Thulani. Just want to say that, Thulani, Tshega, everybody, thank you so much for this opportunity to commune with you guys and to share our thoughts. And I feel so inspired by everybody. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much, Kirstin. Thank you very much. I think you are very much also done here. I don't know. I think I can let you go. Anyway, others will listen just through a recording. Thank you very much for your input. Like, it was very amazing. Nice to have you guys. I always wanted to have you and Tshega, Langa together because you guys do similar things, and the conversations that we have, I'm always inspired. So it's a mission completed for me to have you guys on the same talk like this. I don't know. I think we are done now. People will just ask on the tweets. Those who listen late, because most of them they listen late, the recording. But thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. I don't know if you have any other just byes to say, but I think we're done.
Yeah, well, let's do it, guys. It takes a bit of time, but I think we will get there. So I'm really excited. It's not all that bad. Anyways, sure.
Mm. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tshega. Thank you very much, guys. Bye, 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 bye. The
Bye,
recording will
everybody.
be
Thank
on
you so
the
much, Ken.
timeline. Yes, you're welcome, man, Kirstin. Thank you very much. The recording will be on the timeline, and then sort of if you want to refer people to listen, so then they'll listen. Then we can have means also of having it. Then maybe if you want to edit and use it, you're welcome. Thank you very much, guys. It's an honor to have you. Bye and good night.
Night, everybody.
Good night.